in 1975 when Bill became the head of ceramics at KU. At that time, the department was housed in the basement of Flint Hall. The rest of Stauffer Flint was dedicated to the School of Journalism, and it continues to house those crazy writers now that the crazy potters have left the building. Like most of the buildings on campus, it features this wonderful native Kansas limestone, which is also the inspiration behind the famous and haunting Rock Chalk Chant, the oldest college chant in the United States. Rock Chalk J-R-K-U, Rock Chalk J-R-K-U, Rock Chalk J-R-K-U. One of the most wonderful things about the ceramics facility at KU is this West Campus location known as the Chamney Barn Complex. As you can see, wood firing is very popular here. However, when Bill first arrived, this facility had no kilns. Rather, it was used as studio space for grad students. He immediately recognized it was a great place to build a kiln, and he constructed the first kiln here at Chamney, and it was, of course, a salt kiln. Since then, David Vertoshnik, now the head of ceramics, has encouraged his grad students to build atmospheric kilns designed to meet their own needs. Over the years, there have been salt, soda, and wood kilns built here, including this 450 cubic foot Anagama, originally constructed circa 2000 by Chris Obert. And I am standing very close to where Bill built the first salt kiln on the campus. It was about in this area, had a catenary arch, and the most fun thing was when he had Don right here to do a demonstration. Don threw in front of this building, and immediately upon completion of a pot, one of the students would take it across the lot and load it into the salt kiln. The salt kiln's now gone, as most salt kilns do have their lifespan. One thing that Dave Vertoshnik did that was very sweet for me, anytime Bill poured concrete, he put something in the concrete. So what he had done was he had put a little rubber bison in the foundation that was under the salt kiln. When they broke that up to put in new concrete for these kilns, David Vertoshnik found that and brought it out to me, and it was a real nice thing to have it back in my possession again, and a reminder of what Bill used to do all the time. In 1928, Frank McDonald built this TP gas station here in Lawrence. He had planned to build more across the state of Kansas, but the Great Depression halted the project, and this building remains a one-of-a-kind. In the summer of 1979, after Bill left KU, it became our studio. Frank's daughter-in-law, Barbara, had been one of Bill's continuing education students. Because the teepee had been vacant for so long, they were happy to have it occupied, and in exchange, Barbara could have space for her own pottery in the kiln anytime she wanted. We all know that potters are a little crazy, but salt potters are really crazy. First, you have to use the more expensive silicon carbide shelves, which you then have to scrape the salt residue off after each firing, and then just when your kiln is getting really well coated with the salt and the results are getting more and more luscious with each firing, it's time to tear it down and rebuild it. A salt kiln really only lasts about 100 firings. This kiln has only had around 8 or 9, and you can see the light sheen from the salt just starting to blush on the bricks. This is the second salt kiln that Bill had on this pad that's out here behind the old TP gas station. This one was constructed with obvious hard brick on the inside, and then what Bill found was huge thick fiber that he'd gotten in Tulsa. He covered it with a metal frame, and we got teased by a lot of our friends that it looked like a spaceship ready to take off. The first salt kiln was one that he had found just for the carting away out of Kansas City, and that had been mortared together with cement. So with that particular kiln, I had to take all of the mortar off every brick, clean it, restack it, and then use the bricks to put together the kiln. It was the best way to lose weight. I lost 30 pounds in no time. What a way to diet. One of the most incredible memories I have of moving to Lawrence is that Bill and I both, independently of one another, selected this house. The spiders are attacking me. Actually, I made friends with them years ago when I had to move them. Growing up on a farm, Bill always felt that the hay hooks looked like spider legs. He frequented many junkyards until he found the rest of the parts needed for the spiders. Our house became well known as the Spider House and is still used as a landmark by townies. Little guy. This is the smallest spider that Bill made. And again, many parts are welded. And he did find a little industrial float. And he left the tail on it, so to speak. But I do know that that part is out of a car. I'm not so sure what part of the car. Bill was fortunate enough to stumble upon some old radiators that KU was tearing out of an old dorm. He brought them home, busted them up, and laid them down to create this sidewalk along the west side of the house. Ann and Cindy used to love to ride their bikes down it because it made such a fun noise. Also by here, and this is kind of where I put them, Bill would always put them in different case scenarios with the spiders. The spiders were onslaughting the house, and the soldiers were protecting us from the spiders' army. I didn't like mowing around them, so I found a nice little spot here for them. Bill called these his great people because they were made from furnace grates, and he loved to play on words.
And this is one of my favorite sculptures of Dad's. Since I'm editing the video, I decided to sneak it in. I liked it so much I had one of my senior pictures taken with it. Now back to Mom.
Please come in. Don writes and Bill got to be friends through the NCCA organization. And this is one of the pieces Don threw at the workshop at Chamney Barn Complex, and I am grateful that he let us keep it. And this is one of Bill's clock sculptures, which he called Ra, after the Egyptian sun god. The fun thing about this one is that we have seen his spiders, and the hay hooks that become part of the spiders in the barn were actually attached to this carriage that went from one side of the barn to the other side to carry the hay bales out for the cattle. So the people who owned this house before us had tons of books, which were everywhere, upstairs, in the basement, and this place right here, which we found to be ideal for displaying pots, including this Paul Soldner piece from a workshop he did in Kansas City.
You have a lot of books on pottery too, Mom. You know, I bet some of the people that are watching this video recognize the spines of some of these books.
They'd have to be old-timers like me.
Are you calling our customers old, Mom?
No, just some of them.
Just the ones that
but
are watching
they would
the video.
Enjoy that.
Just the ones that are laughing right. If you're laughing right now, you're old.
Yeah.
Okay, this is another Cindy sneak. Everyone thinks I'm including this picture because it's got the old Bracker Ceramics logo on Dad's sweatshirt. But really, I just think it's pretty funny, and I wanted to share it. That's my dad.
I'm not far from downtown Lawrence at beautiful South Park for the 51st annual Art in the Park Fair. This art fair holds special memories for me because it was the first one that Bill and I did in 1980. The area that we're looking at right now is approximately where Bill and I would set up for Art in the Park. There is now a little tree that obviously wasn't there, and we would have a big wagon that had been a railroad wagon, and we would stack our pots on that. And it was fun because people could walk around it. That was long before the tents were available. I'm standing here with Alan Brummel, a friend for many years, I won't say how many decades.
My early remembrances of Bracker Ceramics are at Teepee Junction. And I remember walking in, first off, to the Teepee, because that's where your studios were.
Right.
And I was amazed at how small the space was. You had a studio, Bill had a studio, and then the main area out front was for display and sale of products. As big as Bill was, I couldn't believe that he was able to work in a space that was that small.
Yeah,
But he seemed very comfortable.
and you said the word studio. It was actually two small rooms, his room and my room. There was a second story in the teepee, and believe it
For
or not,
storage,
for storage.
Yes.
And when we first started selling the cones, which is part of our anniversary celebration, we stored the cones upstairs, and that's also where we stored our chicken boxes.
chicken boxes.
They have handles on them. They have nice lids that fit. It's perfect. You can wrap your pots in newspaper.
And they're covered with wax so they never get wet.
Right. If it rains, you're okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I'm standing in front of the old Carnegie Library building that became the first home of the Lawrence Art Center. When Bill and I were making pottery for a living, we were members of the Lawrence Potters Guild, and they would have in October a wonderful art fair in front of the Carnegie building on the grass. I got teased very often because that was also football season, and I would have headphones on listening to the KU football game. Rock Chalk Jayhawk! Bill and I used to deliver clay here on the side of the building for the ceramics department. When my daughters, both Ann and Cindy, wanted to learn how to throw pottery on the wheel, we sent them here to take classes. And because of those classes, they still enjoy clay to this day. We always felt if the classes at the Lawrence Art Center were good enough for my daughters, they were good enough for anyone in the community, and we continue to advise people to take classes at the Lawrence Art Center. In 1994, Ann Evans, who was the former director of the Lawrence Art Center, asked me if we would be willing to have a retrospective show of Bill's work here at this current facility. With the help of family and friends, we were able to move one of Bill's spiders and several of his great people into the Lawrence Art Center gallery. The retrospective also included works from Bill's MFA thesis show, pots from Purdue and KU, metal sculpture, wood sculpture, even a pen and ink drawing he had done in his undergraduate days, and of course, beautiful work fired in the salt kiln at the teepee. Some of the work in this retrospective are in the private collections of universities across the Midwest. In 2002, the Lawrence Art Center moved into their new facility, which greatly increased space for all of their fine and performing arts programs, but especially their rapidly growing ceramics department. This community has always been a great place for artists. The Lawrence Art Center has been a driving force in enhancing and expanding that creative atmosphere.